5 companies control the most powerful technology in human history. No election decided that. No law designed it, and almost nobody is talking about it clearly. I want you to try something. Name the person who decides how AI develops. You can't because that person doesn't exist. Name the committee that voted on the values these systems encode. There isn't one. Name the global law that governs what AI can and cannot do. There isn't one of those either. And yet, these systems are already making decisions about what you see, what you're offered, and increasingly, what you're allowed to do. What does exist is a small number of companies backed by enormous capital, led by a handful of individuals, none of whom you elected, none of whom are accountable to you, and all of whom are shaping how this technology evolves. What I found is simpler than most people expect, and more alarming than almost anyone is saying out loud. There's one law, the EU AI Act, that's trying to change that. We'll get to whether it's working in a minute, but if you want to understand who controls AI, you don't start with governments. You follow the money. 5 organisations dominate the development of the most advanced AI systems in the world. OpenAI and Microsoft with ChatGPT, xAI with Grok, Google DeepMind with Gemini, Meta AI with Llama, Amazon and Anthropic with Claude AI. Billions of dollars are flowing into a very small number of organisations. Microsoft alone has invested over $10 billion in OpenAI. Amazon and Google are investing heavily to secure their positions. This is not a decentralised ecosystem, it's a tightly interlinked network where influence is concentrated and control is increasingly difficult to challenge. And those priorities are not always aligned with yours, but the infrastructure is only half the story. The people who built it do the real directing, and there are fewer of them than you think. This may be the first time in history that a technology this powerful is being directed by so few people. And to be clear, this is not a story about villains, it's a story about structure. Sam Altman leads OpenAI and testifies before governments about how AI should be regulated while overseeing the deployment of the very systems being regulated. Elon Musk co-founded OpenAI, then sued it and built a competing AI company called xAI, while owning the most influential social media platform in the world for shaping public opinion about AI. He has never testified before Congress about any of it, not once. The man shaping AI's public narrative has never been required to answer for it under oath. Mark Zuckerberg is pushing open source AI at global scale, framing it as democratizing while it simultaneously strengthens Meta's strategic position. Jeff Bezos has invested in Anthropic, while Amazon provides the cloud infrastructure that much of the AI world runs on. When the same people are building the technology and helping define the rules that govern it, that's not accountability, that's concentration of power. And the issue isn't who these individuals are, it's that there are so few of them and so few meaningful checks. So, if power is this concentrated, why aren't governments controlling it? The uncomfortable answer is they're trying and they're failing. First, speed. By the time a law is proposed, debated, amended and passed, the technology it was written for has already moved on. Regulation looks backwards. AI development moves forward and the gap keeps getting wider. The regulator is always playing catch up and sometimes learning from the player, and the companies building AI are not waiting to be regulated. They're actively shaping what that regulation looks like, through lobbying, through advisory roles, through direct access to policymakers. When the people writing the rules depend on the people being regulated to understand the problem, the outcome is not neutral, it's negotiated. That's the AI accountability problem, and it's structural, And that gap gets harder to close by the day because AI isn't just commercial, it's geopolitical. The United States and China are in an active race to lead in AI. And when a technology becomes a question of national security, everything else becomes secondary. Both sides are pushed in the same direction. Move faster, build more, ask fewer questions later. Not because they want to ignore risk, but because the system makes it rational to do so. The gap between what AI can do and what any government can govern is where most of the real risk lives. There is one place on earth genuinely trying to close it. Brussels. No, not the Sprouts, but the capital city of Belgium. The European Union has passed the world's first comprehensive AI law, the EU AI Act. It classifies AI systems by risk, restricts the most dangerous uses, and imposes real penalties on companies that don't comply. When the EU sets rules, global companies often follow them everywhere, not because they have to, but because it's easier than building two separate systems. It's called the Brussels effect, and it may be the only functioning model of AI governance we have. It's the most serious attempt at AI governance that exists, and it's still not enough. So what does all of this actually mean for you? Because this isn't abstract, it's already shaping real decisions. Whether you get a loan, whether you're shortlisted for a job, how much you pay for insurance, what information you see, and what you never even realise was filtered out. These decisions are increasingly being made or heavily influenced by AI systems. Systems built by a small number of organisations, running on infrastructure they control, operating according to priorities you didn't choose, with accountability that is, at best, still being defined. And that's why the question of who controls AI isn't just a technical question, it's a question about power and who gets to live with its consequences. Open source or closed? Who do you trust more with this technology? Drop it in the comment section below. In the next minute, I want to show you two things that can actually be done, grounded in what has already worked. Here's what the evidence actually shows. Governance can catch up. It has before, with technologies just as powerful and just as contested as this one. The gap is real, but it's not unbridgeable. At the individual level, demand transparency. When an AI system makes a decision that affects you, a loan, a job, a medical recommendation, ask how that decision was made. In many places that right already exists, but it only matters if it's used. At the national level, governments need something they currently lack: independent technical expertise. Not just advisors from industry, but in-house capability. People who understand these systems well enough to regulate them without relying on the companies building them. The imbalance of knowledge is the single biggest weakness in AI governance, and that can be fixed with investment and with political will, because the window to shape how AI is governed is still open, but it's not going to stay open forever. Every transformative technology in history eventually gets governed. Nuclear weapons, financial systems, pharmaceuticals, not perfectly, not quickly, but eventually societies decide that power this significant can't remain unaccountable. We are at that moment again, but this time we can see it happening. We are not discovering the problem after the damage is done. We are watching it form in real time, and that means what happens next, it's not inevitable, it's a choice. The people building this technology are not our enemies, but they're not our governors either. And in the absence of governance, that distinction may not matter as much as we think. Can AI actually be governed, or are we already too late? I'm Ian, this is AI Scrutinised. If this episode made you think, the sources are in the pinned comment below, and I'll see you in the next episode.